With all the online learning, I am asked nearly every day to verify if students are actually in class and if they're engaged. So over the course of the last few months, depending on the grade level of the student and the type of device, I have been using tools every day that help me get some insight onto what students are doing when they're not at school and when they're doing remote learning. So I wanted to review a couple of the techniques that I'm using every day, the most common ones, to maybe help you do the same thing and increase accountability and awareness of what's happening at home. I will be hiding and obfuscating all the student information, so that's why you'll see this window here. This is not part of the demo. This is to hide personal information. So I'm in the Google Meet admin tool. Now, Microsoft Teams and Zoom both have something similar to this. So you will find this technique works in all three. And if you've never used the Google Meet admin tool, I highly recommend that you do it. I use it every day. I check it in the morning to see if there were issues from the day before, and I check it throughout the day. Not all the data is in real time, so looking the next morning usually shows you a full summary of the day before. You can get to it by going to meet.google.com/tools/quality/admin. And then once you do that, it should take you straight into the menu. If not, you can do another /meeting. You do need to have G Suite administrative privileges to use this tool. This meeting, so I pulled up a meeting, and I'm not going to show the participants, but you'll notice that each participant has a timeline. And this timeline shows you a lot about what they're doing at home. So for example, this person started at 10:56 and their microphone was off, and there was a microphone toggle. It maintains itself as off, and they're still in the meeting. This person is in the meeting with their microphone on. It's a dark blue line. This person tried to join a meeting with their computer, was disconnected, got back on their phone, was disconnected, and tried to connect again on their phone. I can tell you so far that cell phone connections are the least stable amongst people using Google Meeting, and we don't recommend anyone use their cell phone for class, maybe for informational meetings only, but not for class where they need to participate. And as I go down through this, you're going to start noticing that the majority of participants start about the same time. This person starts a little late, but they mostly start about the same time. And then this person started, and then they were disconnected and they jumped back on. I can take some additional steps if I want to see why this person might be disconnected and having to jump back on if I notice that this is happening to them on a regular basis. So down here is a tool that lets you audit the network connection. And I need to be really careful because I don't want to show any students' names. But when you mouse over and click any of these areas, it will tell you that if your number is within an acceptable range or not. And you can do a deeper dive into each student if you need to see, if the student is having severe network issues, and I'll go back over here. And this seems to be the biggest problem. If they're having this issue, so let me filter this or sort it. So this means that the CPU load for the user is 69%. Now, that's not too bad, but if this number is above 75 or towards 80, it means the student is doing a lot of additional things on their computer besides their meeting, and that is probably negatively impacting them in some way. And it's probably slowing them down and getting them disconnected. So again, this user has 12% network congestion. Isn't that bad? This is a little slow. I know it says under 200 is good, but I find this to be a little slow. And if I look at this and feel like the data is being sent slowly and they've got a high CPU load, if a teacher or someone reaches out and complains that a student's getting disconnected, initially the teacher thinks the student is doing it on their own, but maybe the student is trying to connect, but they're just running something on their laptop that is interfering with their performance. So there's a lot that you can learn. if you look at the normal graph of connections, and again, this student is very erratic, you would want to reach out to the student or to their parents and say, hey, they need to be on meetings on their laptops. They're not getting a good quality connection. They're not actually participating. This student is basically not going to school. Look at everyone else around them. For the most part, these students are in class, they're doing their work, the student is not. Inside of the Google admin is a reports section, and inside of reports there are a variety of reports that you can run. One report that I find really useful when people are asking if students are participating is the apps usage report, and it's right down here under user reports. So again, without revealing any student information, I'm going to start scrolling through this, and for example, the student doesn't use Google Photos. They're storing this much information. But when I get here, I can see that it's saying that their classroom last use time. And I'm going to question this a little bit because it should be the same as their Google Meet time. Now, this particular student last used Google Meet on the 18th, but they last used Google Classroom on the 13th. So I'm going to follow up with that, maybe contact their advisor and see if this information is correct. Now, not all Google information is 100% correct. This data can be flawed for a number of reasons, but this is not normal. And I know it's not normal because on a very regular basis, so at least once a week, I run this report for all students. And I just look at the norm. Like, what's the norm? How often are kids connecting or disconnecting? What apps are they using? Like, it takes about a half an hour to do a quick scan. You can sort and look for anomalies, but you do need to do that so you understand what your baseline is. This student really isn't using email. A lot of kids don't, and that's kind of important if you really want to meet them where they're at. So I'll just go through this and see what kind of user they are and what kind of activity they're generating. Normally, students that are doing a significant amount of work will have more documents. This means the student really is only reading documents given to them and they're not actually creating anything. So this can be very insightful, and it's good if you can summarize this into a few bullet points, send it to counseling, send it to if you have deans or if you have advisors, and let them use this data to walk parents through what might be happening. So the disconnect here is that parents see students are online. They have their headsets on, they're in front of their computer, they feel like they're in class. But the reality is that many students are not actually in class. And if the school is taking a synchronous approach, meaning the students are in a class, listening, participating, then the student would have a lot more data, especially in their live meeting data, than a student who's in an asynchronous program where they're working mostly on their own time, watching videos, and then occasionally having meetings with their teachers. At this stage, if virtual learning is still going strong at your school and you're looking at doing it into 2021, it would be a good idea to make sure you've got a more formal process for doing this kind of reporting, letting people know that they can request reports and data. If you need help digging this data out, looking at it, making decisions about it, or looking at data in other systems like Blackbaud or PowerSchool, please reach out to me, and I'm happy to meet you online and work through these things.